Right, we just got done spraying waterborne base coat with this gun. Now we're going to give it a cleaning beforehand using just as by hand instead of by machine. First and most important step is I like to make sure you take the air cap off, because when we rinse this with the waterborne cleaner, I want to make sure I rinse it, give it a quick flush beforehand, because when you leave the air cap on, if you leave that air cap on, some of that water and the paint that's in it runs down inside the air cap and clogs all the threads up, and now you have extra work to clean this. So with the air cap right now, all I really have to clean is the outside of this, because it's just an air cap. It doesn't have paint inside, so I want to make sure that I rinse that off later, and I'm going to do that secondary. By flushing this gun and giving that a good rinsing, I can flush that fairly clean. I'm going to use the brushes that come with the gun, the universal brush, to make sure that I rinse the inside of this, rinse off what came across the outside of the fluid tip, and then hit it again with water. Now that that's clean, if I did use a manufacturer for the paint you're using's waterborne cleaner, it's going to have some sudsing to it that you want to make sure that at the very end that you rinse it with something that's also neutral in pH. So whether it's a water or is what I like to use just for final rinse, I'm going to rinse it again. I'm then going to use my blowgun, blow this dry, hook up your air gun hose to this, and while I have air compressed in this, turn that fan control back and forth to clean this out. Also, rinse my air cap, use a brush to clean that air cap if there's any overspray, rinse it, use my blowgun and blow this dry. Once that's ready to go, I can go right to my next step, which is my next paint job. So I can do that. At the end of the day, the difference is I'm going to want to do the same steps. I'm going to want to flush it exactly like I just did, but I'm going to want to add the stage of using a solvent cleaner, whether that's alcohol or acetone or thinner. If you're in an area that can still use thinner, then I'm going to want to use that. So now if this was thinner, I'm going to want to take my air cap off. At the final end of my shift, I'm going to want to flush it after I've cleaned it with water and make sure that I have it rinsed with solvent, whether it's acetone or alcohol. I'm going to rinse this with acetone or alcohol, and I'm going to blow it dry. So when we blow this dry, now it's going to be nice and clean for the end of the day. At the end of a shift, I do want to remove my needle. I'm going to remove my fluid nozzle. I'm going to use my brush, and I'm going to make sure that I've cleaned all of the residue that's left from the paint. I'm going to use a small dual-ended brush to make sure that my fluid tip is clean inside, and I'm going to rinse it again with that final cleaner, which could be acetone or thinner, and I'm going to blow it dry. Once that's all clean, before I reassemble it, I would like to use a SATA grease. I'm going to put that grease, I first put it on the spring that's in the rear of the gun, because I can use that like a paintbrush. I'm going to put the grease on the needle, in front of the barrel on the needle, and on that barrel on the needle. What's nice about that is if you look on a spray gun where that goes in, it lubricates not only where it goes through the body, but it lubricates where it goes through the fluid packing on that gun to keep that lubricated. So now everything is blown dry, everything is clean. I'm going to put that grease also on the air piston behind the needle, behind the trigger, and I'm going to put that also on the threads that are on that fluid knob at the rear of the spray gun. Now that I've done that, everything is lubricated. Now overspray can't stick to your air piston, it can't stick on the threads on your fluid knob, and everything is going to function the way it should each day. So my first step is going to be to put the fluid knob back on my spray gun. I'm going to tighten that with the proper wrench and make sure it's snug. I'm going to put my needle back in the spray gun, and I'm going to have my spring back in and my fluid knob. Now once all of that is back inside that gun, it's going to be ready for me to use. The air cap's the final step. It's going to be ready for me the next day. When I come in, I pull that trigger on that gun, it's going to be ready to paint. I don't have to put, please don't store any water inside your gun or any solvent inside your gun. It's ready to use. If I have it all cleaned, blown dry, lubricated, the next day it's ready to go to work. Don't store anything in it for excess solvent or excess water because it's clean. There's nothing left that's going to be cleaned overnight. So put it away dry with the grease on it. The gun's going to be ready to paint with.